during the campaign period by the President of Uganda to help out association to develop their members. Members of Parliament were asked to report on how Emyoga program worked in their region so that they know whether to add more money, but find that more regions have issues to access these funds.
To the district commercial officers and other technocrats for effective monitoring and supervision. There was a budget, yes, but it was passed through the Microfinance Support Center. This affected the day-to-day operations of the SACCOs, and during our meeting with the district officials, we noted that the officials in charge were understaffed and with no operational funds at their disposal to execute their tasks. For example, in Kanungu, 2 staff members in the commercial department were expected to monitor all the associations, which we found to be an uphill task. There was also delay of disbursement of funds. Most SACCOs that had opened accounts in Post Bank delayed to receive the funds. Post Bank insisted that the SACCOs get clearance from Registrar's office in Kampala. It was very hard for these SACCOs to travel to Kampala to get certification. In Kanungu district, many associations abandoned the processes due to laborious process after investing in the registration monies.
We wanted to start with the disbursement of funds. It was established that in each constituency funds were disbursed to all the targeted 18 SACCOs. This was verified based on the list that were circulated to members of Parliament by Microfinance Support Center and based on the bank statements that we picked from the CDOs and the SACCO leadership of these SACCOs. So we confirmed that all the regions had at least gotten money from Microfinance Support Center. Then we also checked out on the safeguards. Some commercial officers have put up safeguard measures which could prove helpful in the fight against fraud and misuse of the seed capital. For example, the commercial officer for Kawempe demands that SACCOs provide accountability for every 10 million of the withdrawn seed capital. Elsewhere in Zimbabwe, SACCOs put in place terms and conditions regulating loan disbursements where a member is only allowed to borrow 3 times their savings. This same requirement was a general requirement from Microfinance Support Center and the regulatory agency.
Regional reports were read in 11th Parliament and found out that the Emyoga money that was put in the Microfinance Support Center was delayed due to the disbursement of the money in most of the regions, which affected the program. Some member of Parliament said that this program was brought in the period of campaign and people did not understand the purpose of this money.
Emyoga was implemented in my district, or rather my constituency, and we've had a lot of mixed results. But in general, it was very poorly implemented. And I think the main reason was because the timing of Emyoga. It came at a moment when there was the height of campaigns, and many people misconstrued that to be a political incentive to vote according to the political president of that moment. And that created a problem. And so people formed groups so fast, there was no natural cohesion of the groups. Leaders were just put together so as to be able to create a vehicle to receive money. And the dynamics of natural meeting and growth never existed. And so apart from the initial meetings which were conducted at the time of the training and formation of the groups, most groups have hardly had any meeting. The few, about 5 of them, have done quite fairly because they were initially in existence. And so those ones have tried to make some good use of Emyoga. But in general, Emyoga has been done poorly implemented, and I think we really must change. Going forward, we must change the way we do Emyoga. People must be consulted ahead of time. There must be proper mobilization and allow people to create natural groups, not to force them to create unnatural ones in a short while with money being hung ahead as an incentive.
There were also concerns that this program was not planned well and most of the people did not understand the purpose of this money, and even the group of people that were supposed to supervise this program were not the right people.
Era twasoka nitutambula mu field netwabanga bwebiri nebyo twazulayo okusinga issue eriwo okusingira ddala sente ze bateekawo eza saving 30%. Bw'oba oyagala $3 million soka ku saving emu okuwa time 3 zo savings twakisangamu obuzibu bw'amaanyi. Abamu batunda bye bayina basobole okusevinga basobole okufuna ssente. Ekyo ne kiba nga kibazza mabega. Ekirala bw'olaba grace period gye baabawa batandika bakweteekateeka nga batandika kusasula. Ekirala project we bagireetera eno program we bagireetera byali biseera bya kalulu. Abamu ne batagitunuulira nga kya mugaso wabala ne bamanya nti kalinga akasiimo ke babawadde mu kalulu ke babaddemu nga basagula kalulu ne so babawadde akasiimo. So wakyaliwo mixed reactions ku Myoga zigireetera okuba nga program tetambula bulungi teyabadde mbi era wano mu house twagala government egiwo ssente zino eza saving kubanga omuntu omu akwata million 3 nazi saving ne afutwala million 12 ate baali mu association nabo nosanga bavunanyizibwa okuba nga basasula. Ezimu zaafuna endala tezaafuna endala zaafuna ssente ne zisigala ku akawunti okwo nga tezizikozesa nga tebamanyi na kyakukola. So zikyalimu ebintu bingi ne guideline tezirikirya n'okusomesebwa abantu babasomesa ate ne guideline.
It was handled by a people which was completely devoid of the political leadership. It was done by the RDC and his team and the commercial officer of all people. You know, the CD was left out, no LCs were properly involved, and that created a mess that we had people coming on board who eventually disappeared into the society without any trace. And so in a nutshell, in the future we have to rethink how we do this business, mobilize people, educate them, and have this go as a roll-on program to educate and even set the kind of basic minimums which all of them can fit, as opposed to putting a bar so high or so low that either a few can meet or everybody can meet and it becomes completely watered down.
However, the responses got from the Member of Parliament, they asked the government to stop targeting individual employment and go for collective investment, and also to give out one bank that can take care of the Myoga program so that the interest rates are low.
This is a recommendation. The Myoga program should be changed from targeting individual investments to collective investment by members. This will be more impactful in the short and long term, as envisaged in Karangara, where Boda Boda Circle members opted to buy Boda Bodas for the entire circle instead of sharing or loaning out to individuals. So to us, we think as members of Buganda region that this program should emphasize collective investment. Even somewhere in Kampala where I did not pick something because it came late, some circles were buying minibuses, or we call them taxis, and the earnings from those taxis would be taken as savings of the associations. So we actually recommend that Microfinance Support Center or the regulatory agency should insist on collective investment by members. We also recommend that, Madam Speaker, that the Minister fast tracks the formation of the cooperative bank as well as the Credit Reference Bureau as required under Section 19 and Section 55AB of the Cooperative Societies Amendment Act of 2020. We believe that right now, all the savings that are being collected from these member associations, if we can have one bank that is taking care of them, I think government would benefit, and even the small associations in those villages would benefit more, because we observe that our commercial banks are charging rates that we believe are higher than our targeted rates for the association. So we recommend that the Minister fast-tracks cooperative bank formation.
The Myoga program was initially to help everyone who was under association, because these funds were to pass through them and people were to create groups according to the work they do so that they benefit.
And following up on the Myoga issue, most of the MPs have actually been calling out the government to clearly say that they use a number, they actually pick out one bank for the depots in regards to the particular incident of Myoga, because most of the banks have different charges, and if at all the government wants to help these particular SMEs get to benefit out of these particular Myoga funds, they should set up one bank to actually calm, to actually settle down with in regards to the particular bank charges that are there. This will actually keep the bank charges low, because we will definitely be using one bank following that particular one. This follows after the government did ask the MPs to see whether should there be an increase in the funds available of the Myoga, or should the government actually continue with that particular aspect, or has the Myoga funds reached out to the people? Most of the MPs were quick to note that most of the targeted audience who were supposed to meet these funds did not get to access them. Reason being, there are a number of ghost circles, and also the systems that the government had laid on board to see that the people get these funds was not clearly aligned well to see that these particular people get to utilize these funds. Moving on, URA has lost billions as smuggling in West Nile continues to loom. The increase in cases of smuggling in the West Nile region are worryingly increasing, and the Uganda Revenue Authority does continue to lose business due to tax evasions. Let's take a look at this report.
For decades, the Uganda Revenue Authority, a body charged with collecting taxes for the country, has been engaged in running battles with smugglers across the Western Nile region. The vast sub-region with numerous porous borders has made it difficult for Uganda Revenue Authority to chew with vice. On Saturday, during the bazaar on electronic facial receipting and invoicing solution at Heritage Courts in Arua district, the customs supervisor, Mr. Alex Murungi, said the main problem is to get the fuel smugglers off the streets because fuel is highly inflamed and it is a great security threat. He said they are losing huge sums of money with the smuggling business that is now a source of livelihood for many youth. Ifrishi is an initiative under the Domestic Revenue Mobilization Program, whose aim is to address the taxi administration challenges relating to business transactions and issuance of receipts. It enables businessmen and women file their returns electronically. According to Uganda Revenue Authority recovery report on smuggled goods early this year, the authority loses between 500 million to 1 billion a month to smuggling across the Western Nile region. A section of youth in the sub-region smuggle fuel, cooking oil, rice and cigarettes from the neighboring DRC Congo, where there is little control on the borders. Vehicle and motorcycle owners opt for fuel from the smugglers because it is sold at a low price of shilling 3,700 as compared to what it is sold at fuel station, which costs shillings 4,200 per litre. This has opened the market and attracted many youth to earn for survival. The Arua Business Community Chairperson, Mr. Moses Obeta, said the Uganda Revenue Authority should advise means of countering the side smugglers in a rather friendly way to avoid confrontations and brutality. Mr. Oboya said there was a need for Uganda Revenue Authority to sensitize the communities through bazaar, especially those at the borders, so that they can understand the importance of paying taxi.
The Arua Business Community Chairperson, Mr. Moses Obeta, said URA should devise means to clearly see that they should encounter the said smugglers in a friendly way, not to encounter them in a brutality way, because URA is now looking for the tax invaders in that particular aspect. Vehicle and motorcycle owners opt for fuel from smugglers simply because it is sold at a lower price, which is 3,700 shillings a litre, while fuel stations are selling theirs at 4,200. And if you are definitely into a business, you would want to look for a lower price or a cheaper price. And according to the URA recovery report on smuggled goods earlier this year, the Revenue Authority or the tax collectors do lose around 500 million Ugandan shillings to 1 billion Ugandan shillings due to smuggling across the West Nile region only. A section of the youth in the sub-region smuggle fuel, cooking oil, rice and cigarettes from the neighboring DR Congo, where there is little control over the borders, and that is why the URA did set up that particular baraza on the electronic receipting and invoicing system, that is IFRIS, electronic physical receipting and invoicing system at the Heritage Courts in Arua. And it was during this particular one that Mr. Alex Murungi, the customs supervisor, said the main problem is to get the fuel smugglers off the streets because fuel is highly flammable and it is a great security threat. He did furthermore say they are losing huge sums of money with smuggling business, and that is now a source of livelihood for many youth in the region, as URA thus continue to devise means to clearly see that they get taxes off the smuggled goods from the region, that is from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Remember, as the URA is actually looking for ways of improving the economy of the country, they have to make sure they stabilize the economy by making sure they collect the taxes. So make sure if you're part of the region, among the smugglers of this particular product in the West Nile region, you should stay warned, because later on the government will actually take a very huge step to see that they put you to pay for the goods that you've actually been smuggling. Moving on, MTN Uganda have partnered with Britam Uganda to help increase the penetration of insurance services in the country. The telecom giants say with this partnership, customers will conveniently pay for insurance in the comfort of their offices and homes. Take a look at this report.
Speaking at the launch held at Sheraton Hotel, Kampala on Monday morning, Alan Mafabi, the Britam Uganda Chief Executive Officer, said the partnership will help the company ride on MTN Uganda's popularity and network to sell insurance products to members of the public. According to Stephen Mutana, the Chief Executive Officer for Mobile Money at MTN Uganda, the partnership reasons with the telecom company goal to ensure services to people wherever they are. The partnership will see Britam customers use MTN Mobile Money and other company platforms to pay the insurance policies. According to Norman Batuma of Chams Telecom, who also doubles a chairman of the MTN dealers with over 4,000 outlets that the telecom company has countrywide. It will be easy for customers to access insurance services courtesy of the new partnership. Whereas in the past few years, the number of people taking up insurance has gone up, the penetration is still low at only 0.7%. Speaking on Monday, Uganda Insurance Regulatory Authorities, Edward Kasato said such partnership will help the insurance sector make more gains in terms of penetration. The new partnership will see Britam customers use MTN Mobile Money to access their third-party insurance, but according to officials from both companies, with time, all insurance products will be able to be accessed and paid for Uganda MTN platforms.
The new partnership will actually see MTN users with MTN Mobile Money access insurance services with the use of their mobile phones and actually pay off, because clearly one of those bigger issues that have actually been creating difficulties when people are paying third-party insurance was the fact that the insuring officers at the different insurance offices were very few, because if you could say, let me say, at different fuel stations where insurance officers are being situated, most of them were very few and they could not carry on with a number of customers. And in this particular way, MTN Uganda comes aboard to actually set up a partnership to see that the Britam customers use MTN Mobile Money to access the third party. But according to officials from both companies, with time, all insurance products will actually be able to be accessed and paid for using MTN platforms. And with this particular idea, they will actually be limiting physical movements, whereby someone will actually just pay off for the third-party insurance with the use of your phone, and then you remain with the reference, in that even if you have a number of tasks or a job to catch up during the daytime, you can actually show the traffic officer, if at all your insurance third-party cover had expired, you can actually show the officer that you've already paid and you have a reference, and you'll then later on pick your sticker after, that is the third-party sticker, after you're done with your work, that is during evening time. So clearly this is to help out in the day-to-day running of activities in regards to using the mobile money, as well as MTN Uganda to mainly help you out when it comes to running insurance services for your vehicle. Now we head to the international scene as Kenya's court scupers President Kenyatta's minimum tax plan. The Kenyan High Court ruled that the government is planned to impose a minimum tax on corporate sales, even when a company reports losses, is unconstitutional. More of this story. The ruling comes as a relief for companies that were wary of paying the 1% levy on total sales from the beginning of 2021, even as they had to cope with the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. It is a blow, however, for President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration, which was looking to collect at least 21 billion shillings annually from the measure. it would be yet another income stream to go toward the plan to narrow the East African nation's fiscal deficit to 7.5% of gross domestic product in the year through June. The tax is now annual, Judge George Odunga said in the ruling on Monday. It results in diminishing capital for those making losses, while for those making profits, capital base is unaffected. He said, while the government wanted to assure companies that report losses as a tax avoidance strategy over years also contribute to the exchange, petitioners say that the policy is punitive for those that are genuinely losing money. Their argument was helped by the move by the National Treasury to exempt some companies from paying the tax, including Kenya Airways, whose business hit by the pandemic-related lockdowns. Businesses whose pricing is controlled by the government, such as fuel marketers and Kenya Power, are also exempted. Kenyan courts suspended 1% minimum gross sales tax after petition, as Kenya is looking to raise money to fund its 3.03 trillion shilling budget to help it recover from the pandemic following an economic contraction in 2020, the first in nearly 3 decades. Kenyatta, to step down in 2022 after 2 terms, is also racing to complete his program that involves increased investment in farming, housing, healthcare, and manufacturing. The ruling comes as a relief for companies. Suspend 1% minimum gross sales tax after petition, as Kenya is actually looking to raise money to fund its 3.03 trillion shilling budget to help it recover from the pandemic following an economic contraction in 2020. The first in nearly 3 decades, Kenyatta, who is due to step down in 2022, is actually looking to complete his program that involves increased investment in farming, housing, healthcare, and manufacturing. But meanwhile, the High Court has actually stepped into his plans of saying that, according to the High Court, the ruling that the government is planning to impose a minimum tax on corporate sales, even when a company reports losses, is unconstitutional and not by law. Still in Kenya, onto the next story. Kenya's trade deal with the United Kingdom has inched closer to reality after the state set up a team to negotiate the country's terms under the Economic Partnership Agreement, EPA. The team renewed hope of reviving stalled Kenya-UK trade treaty. More of this report.
The team consists of senior officials armed to boost the bilateral trade agreement talks. In a notice in the Kenyan Gazette last week, the Cabinet Secretary for Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, Betty Maina, announced members to the EPA Council. The agreement to establish the EPA between the two countries was signed by Ms. Maina and her UK counterpart, Ranil Jawadena, on December 8, 2020, to the optimism of the business communities in both countries. The UK currently takes up a third of all Kenyan exports to the European Union, with the government optimistic the deal will expose Kenya to a 20 trillion shillings export market. Ms. Maina said in a memorandum to MPs last year, explaining the deal, that the analysis of the UK market potential is for products that have been earmarked for driving Kenya's national export agenda, reveals great opportunity that can only be exploited through assured market access arrangement that is now provided by the East African community. The market potential that awaits Kenya's exploitation is estimated at 20 trillion shillings against Kenya's current levels of export, which stands at 0.2% of the total UK market size. Alongside the appointment of the members to the EPA Council, the CS also named 8 new members to the Committee of Senior Officials to represent the country in the negotiations. Pursuant to the establishment of the Committee of Senior Officials under Article 106 of the EPA, between Kenya and the UK of the Great Britain and North Ireland, Kenya shall be represented on the committee by the Principal Secretary from the Ministry of Planning.
The Kenya trade with UK, with the Kenya trade deal with the United Kingdom, UK, is actually inching closer. And this would actually be of a benefit to Kenya to see that they actually tap into the available markets in the European markets, more so in the United Kingdom, that would actually see that their exportation goes to a aim to actually increases, and that would actually help them out in terms of finding ready market for the to actually find available market for their goods and increasing their exports, and in turn tapping into the foreign currencies over there, which is going to be more helpful to the Kenyan government. And in this particular partnership, that will see even employment opportunities booming up, and Kenya seeks to use the East African community to actually tap into the available markets in the United Kingdom. That brings us to the end of our news hour this particular moment. I will return with more in regards to sports business this time round. Keep it SMB.